Hey, good morning. I was wondering if you could do a little introduction about yourself.
Hi, ITOTELNEW SIAM, SDEMOXELTEN TENNISNE, ÜÇISÁL TRASL LELENS ÇISÁLENج, ÜÇISÁL TENIMEN TELAXTEN STOUT SDEMOXELWET. My name is SDEMOXELTEN. My English name is Maryann Sam. I come from Tsartlip Village site of Saanich. So my dad is from Tsartlip, his name's TELAXTEN, and my mom is from STOUT, her name's SDEMOXELWET. And I have ancestry that I guess goes as far over as Katie First Nations and SIAM as well. So I'm 41 years old. I am a father of 4, stepfather to 3, and I am a traditional speaker in our longhouses. I also work as the Director of Indigenous Initiatives in the Health Faculty at the University of Victoria. And I spent about 18 years as a high school teacher as well. There's quite a bit more. I play sports. I'm a proud father. I guess I'll leave it there for now. Okay. So when we talk about the children in my family, I would think about my own children, but I'd also think of my own TİİHEN too, like my nieces and my nephews, which I would have lost count of by now, because I've got nieces and nephews in the 40s underneath my mom and dad. So I think about them to be like my children just as much as I do my own children. So if we were to think about that, that just shows the kind of role that we carry, like as men, like whether we're uncles or fathers or anything like that, to teach our children and to share the importance of what it means to be that male figure, I guess, in our family. So, and which could mean a lot of different things. It just it's mostly a matter of like thinking about some of the different roles and that our men carry in our families. So, and it could range from anything, whether fishermen, hunting, or knitting, or any of those kind of things. Those traits that we carry within our roles in our family would gradually just trickle into our young men in our family as well. So, like, and it wouldn't necessarily be one particular thing either. It would have to do with like the way that our children carry themselves in our family is the way we articulate how we speak to them and how we teach them too. So that's gonna play a pretty key role in what you teach each of these young men and what they're gonna expect, I guess, in growing into a young man within our family and community. So it's gonna be pretty heavily reflected on some of the teachings that your family carries, and you just do your best to like solidify those teachings within the young men in our families. So, so men in community, I couldn't see ÜခြIST in the SNEPENEH SLELEW. Níl go TELAXTEN couldn't ÜခြIST. I couldn't see ITOTELNEW an SALACHWAIN an SALSILE an STRELAPMOC. STÚHEALC at the SNEPENEH STA couldn't see ÜခြIST STÚHEALC at the SÐEMOXELTEN on सँÁNGANA an TÍİHEN STÚHEALC at SÐEMOXELWET. When we think about like when you're going a little bit more abroad and talking about our community and like the men in our community type of thing, what we really want to do is make sure that we generate that connection to our ancestors. like to the older ones in our family. So first and foremost, like knowing who you are, knowing like what your family roots are, type of thing out in the community. Plus like trying to soak in all the teachings of some of the older ones in our families. The big thing is like being able to make sure that we are able to solidify our own understanding of what our uncles and our grandpas and our great grandpas and all of that would carry, and what is it out of all of those types of things have we learned as a young man growing up, kind of thing, and what is it that we have a passion for and learning. So once we develop that passion, once we've been able to establish what it is we want to learn and what it is we have a passion for, it's, I guess, that would be a way to reflect on what it is you're doing in the community, or what it is you're doing as an uncle or a father is going to kind of reflect on those things that you follow, like within the teachings of our older ones in our family. Mm-hmm.
So are there words in the language that come to mind for you when you think about raising healthy children?
Mm-hmm. СΥАМ это SNEPENEHNS нилкуча ТЭСКОЭСКОЭЛ нилкуча ТЭШХОНENS to ITHEIÐHEIÐ the SÐEMOXELTEN and SELSILE ÄNS SÐEMOXELWET I guess one of the biggest words, of course, I'd honestly think it would be our SNEPENEH, which is referring to our own teachings. So when we talk about those teachings, in particular, what I was referencing earlier when I was talking about being able to solidify your own identity as a man, basically that development, I guess, or that evolvement of yourself as a man, I guess. In the language, we have this word that we call as ḥīþok, which means something like you're developing a connection. So when you're able to develop that connection between who you are and what you're doing, is you're solidifying a connection with everybody that's in generations below you too. So as Saanich people, it's not necessarily revolved around some of the things that we carry within ourselves at a certain age, or like it's not like based on gender, or it's not based on your role in the community or anything like that. It's actually based on like a vertical diagram of what generation we belong to. So when we're talking about those words in the language, when I say ḥīþok in the language, you're developing that connection from those generations above you, and you're kind of doing your best to organize within yourself on what you want to solidify within your generation to be able to generate that connection for all of your children and nieces and nephews and that below you as well. So I think when I say ḥīþok, that's just referring to our connectedness between all of our families and our generations and that type of thing. I couldn't do HÁEQ at the SŠOÁLS, la couldn't sleep lashkash, to swap listing, Yoawa, couldn't do ITOTELNEW at the SŠOÁLS, then the main, then the SALSECH, then the SELSILE. Ja, couldn't do THÁIYE and nõENE, to natural and SŠOÁLS, the SNAWEL, to ČAJACHT, the SŠOÁLEQUINS. THÁIYE and nõENE, to ITOTELNEW at the SŠOÁLS, couldn't do connect THÁIYE and nõENE. So Angst at the SŠOÁLEQUINS, SNAWELens, Sali, to UအခြIST and nõENE. So I think back to when just being a father, you know, I think back to our mindset when we're carrying ourselves as younger people. And there are things that we want to learn, there are things that we take a passion for, but I think the biggest thing is that we don't really know how to articulate those things that we learn at a younger age until we become a parent. So once I became a father, that's when everything in my mind changed. So it changed for the better, honestly. So once we are able to take a lot of the things that we've had a passion for growing up, and we take all of those things that we've wanted to learn for ourselves, it then becomes a state of mind where you almost actually get to a point in your life where you start to judge yourself a little bit. And you think about like some of the things, like when you want to teach your children, it's like you want to do your best for them. Like when you're carrying your children, it's like you want to do your best to give your all to your children when they're growing. And it gets you to a point where when you're teaching, sometimes when you're teaching them and talking with them and sharing with them, you find it harder to articulate some of the things you want them to learn, basically because you didn't really take a big, huge passion for it when you're younger, kind of thing. It was until you became a father that you start to realize, like, hey, I probably should have paid a bit more attention to this. But that also in itself becomes a motivation. So when you start to teach your children, and that you're learning from them just as much as you're trying to help them learn to you. So, yeah. Hai, nilkucha ta'a, solsich, and shkulakwa. Tahu khoneng koniskwelt, the shkoneng zatlishok. So think about like when we consider ourselves in that uncle role, it's pretty similar to when we carry ourselves as a father, and it doesn't really it doesn't reflect well though. It's almost like you got to be a part of our ksētnich community to be able to understand that concept in itself. But when you're carrying yourselves in a way that you mean well for the next generation type of thing, you do your best to care for your nieces and nephews and that just as if they were your own. So especially like when you're able to take that experience of being a parent yourself, and then you know that you recognize things with your nieces and nephews and that maybe they excel at, or some things that maybe you notice that they do really well. And it's up to us as uncles to be able to point those kind of things out, because it's a given that their parents are going to feed them things left, right, and center, and they're going to hear from their mom and dad about all these different kind of things of like, oh, good job, son, or good job, daughter. Like, you get praise and that from your parents, but when it comes from like uncles, your soul sitch, and that, it's actually helping to be able to affirm some of the things that your parents want you to learn type of thing. So when it comes from an uncle type of thing, it almost helps reinforce some of the teachings that your family is going to want to carry for that generation below us too, right? So it's good way to try and like solidify those kind of things when you're able to help not only reinforce some of the things that their parents are trying to teach them, but help them see in themselves like what they're good at and what they can excel at too, as their uncle kind of thing. So being able to do that is just going to help them build strength and help them build like confidence, and be able to really charge out what it is they're learning from their uncles kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That's a really big question, actually. So when we think about the next generation, there's a big difference from the different generations of the men in our community. Like, so compared to when I was a young man, even, for example, and you think about somebody that's becoming a young man in this day and age, it's quite a bit different. Like things have grown and evolved so much in this world that we live in. I think the biggest thing, I guess, for some of the future generation would mainly be to not take anything for granted. So I think that's a really big thing for a lot of our younger generation, is that with the mok suaika, stu Jawisla, the SNEPENEHNS, the SELELEW, Nihak stu Tetasit, the SŠÁALS, the SELELEW. I was stu Nichnachi, I was Nachting with the SŠÁALS, the Kunstu UခြIST, the mok sualis, the mok suaika. I stu ĆISÁL at the SNEPENEHNS, stu 취ISÁL, it's now with the SŠÁALS at the LELENS, stu Tet at the SŠÁALS, stu I was stu ċiխacha, kunstu ITOTELNEW at the SŠÁALS, the suaika. Think about not wanting to, be backward about the way we carry ourselves. And what I was already sharing earlier, we talk about some of those things that we want to build a passion for, and some of the things that we're able to learn as young men and as boys. We want to not only soak in what we can at our younger age, but we want to be able to, honestly, it'd be best if we were able to find what it is we really feel in here for what we want to do and what we see as being valuable or beneficial to our own future type of thing. So it's mostly just about like gaining confidence in what it is you learn, and being able to help that reflect in what you do as a man or as a young man in our community. So being able to get that recognition and within yourself is going to only mean better for you as you become like a father or any of those kind of things in our community too. So yeah, so Nilskocha the snews connect and SZ and SÐEMOXELTEN stu ČISÁL at the SNEPENEHNS to SELELEW. When we carry ourselves, I think a really big part of that is gonna mainly have to do with being able to think about some of those teachings that were given to you from your parents, but at the same time recognizing when some of the older ones, like if you have people that are like 2 generations above you that are telling you and teaching you, or and in my case it would have been like giving me a hard time when I was at a younger age, right? But I think those hard times that we were given was based on something that the ones in those 2 generations above us would recognize about us. So if we were able to just follow in what they wanted for us, kind of thing, and be able to help solidify those teachings, I guess, when we're learning from our SİLSILE in particular. So when I say your SİLSILE, in our language, Sila is referring to your grandparents, but it's also referring to their brothers, sisters, and cousins. Like they're all Sila. It's not like in English where you have like you have grandpa because he's a male, grandma because she's a female, grand aunt because it's like the female relative to your grandpa or grandma, or grand uncle because it's a male relative to your grandpa or grandma. Those types of things, all that is just in one word in our language. Because when you look at that 2 generations above us, that's in itself is a teaching. So like when you're learning from your SİLSILE, you're learning from that generation that your grandpa and grandma sit in. It's not just from them too in particular, it's from like all of those ones in that generation. So when you say Sila, it's somebody that's 2 generations above you. So being able to kind of reflect on some of those teachings that they have, if you have any of those people in your life, I think that's probably the best way to carry ourselves within teachings when we're talking about teachings, right? So being able to learn from them, I think, is probably the best teachings you could follow, honestly. Mm-hmm. Well, any of our men in our community, honestly, it's I think for the most part, it's like it's okay to feel things. really. And it's okay to see the reality and how you carry yourself as a man. And you know, there's so many things that we can do, you know, but at the same time, there's like we make mistakes, you know, and like we stumble. And there's times where we even have so much indecisiveness in how we carry ourselves as a man in the community, type of thing. And am I doing this right, or is there things that I could do better? So a lot of times that brings in doubt, and it brings in like your morals kind of come down a little bit, and that lowers your drive to want to do more. So if you can just not have any of those kind of things cloud your vision, in terms of being able to just I don't know, like come to a realization on how you really feel about yourself, and being able to solidify what it is you're doing. So if we carry certain how would you say it, like it's hard to articulate in English even, really, because I think about like when I talk about our SNEPENEH, and I talk about like when I'm using those words like ĆISÁL and stuff like that, we ever get to that state where we're indecisive, where we don't really know what we want to do, or any of those types of things, we got to base it more so on just trusting the things that we've learned, really, and just trusting in some of the things that we're able to carry in a good way. And when you do feel like you're failing, or you made a mistake, or you're indecisive, or anything like that, just you won't really know unless you try, really. So and if you try and you fail, don't let it bring you down. Just kind of take it for what it is. If it wasn't meant for you, and leave it aside and do something else. But when it comes to having to do so many things, and it's mostly a matter of just trying to take care of yourself in here more than anything, and the rest will kind of take care of itself. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Almost cried over. Okay.
Now, we'd like to thank you again for taking the time out of your day to come meet with us.
HÁEQ, HÁEQ, HÁEQ,